Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Today I want to talk to you a little bit more about long form and short form content. And the reason why is because I think that there's a lot to do in the online space with understanding the difference between these two pieces of content or these two forms of content and incorporating it into your content strategy. So I really want to go over in depth more about long form and short form content. Now, when I say I'm going to go over it in depth, I'm not just going to go over details. I'm also going to go over what I have seen in the space, like not necessarily trend-wise, but definitely what I've seen lead to more and more conversions. So I'm going to be going over as much as I possibly can in this episode, as well as keeping it as simple as possible, because the more simple the information is sometimes, I feel like the easier it is to take action on your end, but also the clearer it is to communicate as well. So I want to make sure that that clarity is there and you walk away not only understanding what these two forms of content are, but how you can now start to incorporate them into your content strategy moving forward. So let's move into it. Long form and short form. I'm going to start with short form. Short form, I think TikTok has done a really good job of putting out and really making a name for themselves in terms of short form content, and also making the population aware of what short form content is by the masses. So to me, short form content is anything under a minute for a video, or if it's a text-based form of content, it's a real quick, like 1 or 2 liner. So TikTok, anything under a minute. YouTube Shorts, anything under a minute. Instagram Reels, anything under a minute. You could probably even also say, in terms of videos on YouTube, not just shorts, you could say anything under like 5 or 10 minutes would also be short form content on that platform, just because that platform is so well known for having longer pieces of content. So when you see a video that's like 3 minutes, that's definitely going to be a shorter piece of content, because that platform is so well known for having longer videos with intros and outros and storylines and, you know, the whole shebang. Now, in terms of more text-based apps, the new app Thread is out. We're going to be doing an episode on Threads very, very soon here. I want to definitely hone in on the fact that Threads is very much like a Twitter, where if you have a one-liner kind of thought, you put that out there and it does really, really well on the platform. So Threads is more of a short-form text-based app. I think Instagram posts can be short-form if you keep the caption kind of small, but Instagram posts kind of fall someplace in the middle, in my opinion, in terms of like medium form content. So definitely Threads, definitely tweets on Twitter if you're still on Twitter. Anything that can be really short, really bite-sized, and really quick. And like I said, I think TikTok has done a really good job of making it very aware to the masses of what short actually means. Now, I want to transition more into long form content, because I think that this is going to be the bread and butter, like your meat and potatoes in terms of content for your business to specifically start to see sales coming in. Now, long form content is going to be, for videos, anything over 3 minutes, okay? And the reason why I say anything over 3 minutes is because YouTube, like I was talking about before, is a platform known for having longer form videos with those intros, those outros, a storyline, etc. And once you get over the 3 minute mark, then that's definitely a longer video. TikTok, I think, even though they've introduced the 10-minute video format, they've done that specifically because they want to compete with YouTube, not necessarily because it's short form content that people are going to stick around and watch. 3 minutes to me is the golden time frame, because you have a time long enough to tell a story, but it's quick enough that you're like, I want to watch more. I want to watch more. So 3 minutes isn't necessarily like super short. It's not necessarily super long either, but that's a different story for later on in this episode. Going back to long form content, definitely YouTube videos, definitely email. I know that there are a lot of people who have email lists, including myself, a lot of business owners who do have contact information so that they can email their people on a regular basis, and email can definitely absolutely be a long form content area. Email can also be short form. However, most of the time when I see emails come in from business owners who I'm subscribed to, it is a longer form piece of content. Does that mean that I read through the whole thing? Absolutely not. But it is a great platform to include more information for the people who are involved in wanting to be closer to you. So email is another really good long form content area. I think Instagram posts can be long form. They're a little bit of both in my opinion, especially if you have, like a quick one-liner from threads that you want to repost. That's definitely going to be a short form Instagram post. But you could also venture to say that Instagram posts can also be long form, in that you could do Instagram lives, and live video can last up to an hour on the platform. So you really can utilize longer form pieces of content on that platform. In addition, the caption has way more than 150 characters. It has, I believe, 2,200 or 2,400. So you can write a longer caption in your Instagram post. If you have a carousel, that's only going to add to the text that's in your entire post, including the caption. So it can be obviously longer form, considering you have 10 slides in your carousel. So Instagram posts can be long form if you're going to use all of the text area in those 10 slides for a carousel, as well as the caption, and you maximize on the caption. Another area that has really good long form content is like podcasts. There's so many business owners who have podcasts who literally rant for like over an hour. And when you have a co-host, I can absolutely understand that. And I know that we're going to be having a co-host on the Content Code very, very soon. However, when you don't have that banter back and forth, it's a lot harder to have a longer episode. If you have a podcast and it's just you, like it is just me right now, I'm at 8 minutes just going on about the two different types of content and where, what kinds of platforms you can use these and see these types of content on. That doesn't mean that my episodes are always going to be 8 minutes, but obviously if I had somebody else here with banter back and forth, we could have a much bigger, broader conversation on the topic. So they, obviously the co-host would have other things to say, which is why when you have those bigger podcasts with co-hosts, you're going to find that they do have longer episodes. And so now, after having defined what the pieces of content are for short form content and long form content and where you're typically going to find them, I really want to dive into what you are going to want to incorporate strategically so that you can start to see more conversions, because I have been really researching and looking at this myself from not only the perspective of me as a consumer, but even from business owners who have been selling on platforms on social media this year. A lot of what they are doing is they are essentially posting shorter form pieces of the longer form content. So let's just use this podcast as an example, okay? This podcast episode can literally be used in several different ways. One, I have just recorded a long form piece of content, and by the time that this episode wraps, it's probably maybe 20 minutes. I'm going to have a 20-minute podcast episode that I can pull clips from and I can post onto other platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. I could put them as shorts, I could put them as reels, I could put them onto my Instagram stories, and it could be little teeny tiny tidbits that I get to share on all of these platforms. Number one, to add value to my audience. And I'm just going to be real fucking honest right now. That fucking phrase is ticking me off because it's so vague and out there, and this is definitely a podcast episode for another day, but it's not even really adding value. It's like educating my audience or telling them a story. Like I can literally talk about the time that I was going to start a YouTube channel, and I started this YouTube channel. And even though I had long form content on that channel, it was like anything around 7 to 10 minutes. That didn't necessarily mean that that channel was getting monetized, you know, because there are 2 markers to get your YouTube channel monetized, right? So I could take that. Now, after having told that story, I could take that clip out of this podcast and I could share it on a bunch of different platforms. And people who have that very same issue are going to be able to say, no fucking way, I have the same issue. I'm going to listen to her podcast. Okay? So you're getting exposure by literally just clipping up the 20-minute podcast episode and blasting it on all of these platforms, right? Which is why there are tons of entrepreneurs who do it, because it's so easy to just sit and record for 20 minutes and then just clip the shit out of a 20-minute piece of content and then repost it on other platforms. And you could take probably out of this 120-minute episode, you could probably take like, I don't know, I'd venture to say like 200 or 300 different clips, and you could take it 200 or 300 different ways, giving you 300 to 600 different pieces of content from one 20-minute podcast episode. Anyways, you're going to see that there are going to be a lot of people in the space who are taking their long form content and they're utilizing it in a way on their shorter form platforms to get traction with their audience. And their audience is then going to be like, oh my God, I want to go check out that podcast episode. They're going to be like, what juicy deets are in that podcast episode that she was talking about that she like had to repost, or people were like drooling over what she said. And that's going to be great marketing for you, because once you get that little piece of information out there, people are going to be hemming and hawing. They're going to be like, what the fuck secret sauce did she just cover that is in that podcast episode? I have to go download it. Then what you're going to see is you're going to see an increase in downloads in your podcast episode. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take that increase in downloads and you'll be like, my podcast has X downloads this month. And that's only going to be fucking better, because then people are going to be like, how the hell did you get more podcast downloads? Fucking easy. Okay. So number one, you're going to utilize it on obviously more than one platform. Okay. Number two, another reason why long form content I've been seeing has been doing really, really well is because people need to spend more time with you. Whether you want to believe it or not, posting on Instagram is not going to fucking do it. I've been sitting here posting on platforms for 6 fucking years and people don't know me at all. Okay. You need to have a place for people to get to know you and for people to be in your energy and for people to understand what it is that you know, what you can offer them, how you talk, how you teach, how you coach. Because if you don't give them an immersive experience, if you don't provide them with an idea of who the hell you are, they're not going to fucking stick around. Okay? Like, let's get fucking real for a second. If you're posting on TikTok and that's all you're doing, I would absolutely venture to say it's worked for a little bit, maybe back in 2020 or 2021, but it's not working the same way that you thought it was going to work anymore, because you don't have anything to nurture your fucking people. You don't have anything to bring them to a warmer point to get them to buy. So one of the business owners that I have seen in the space do this really, really well is like a James Wedmore. Okay, he's obviously a huge name, but he has this podcast, right? And he puts a podcast episode out like 3 days a week, every week, except for maybe, you know, after his launch, I think he's been putting out like one podcast episode a week. And there has been a couple of weeks that he just didn't have anything to post. And honestly, he probably does have something to post, but it's not coming out because he's not in launch mode right now. He's past his open cart period. So why would he need to go put out more and more content, right? When people are putting out content on a podcast episode, they get closer to you. They hear your voice. They know what it is that you value. They can hear what is important to you. They can hear the inflection of your voice. And trust me, like I have learned a whole lot about this because I used to MC for trivia, and there was a whole method to the madness of how my boss wanted you to show up when you MC trivia. Because if you said a question the wrong way, then people wouldn't fucking pay attention. And if you said it a wrong way, like with a different inflection, then people would be like, what did you just say? Like they wouldn't understand it correctly. So you really, like, there's so much to be said about how you show up on an audio versus a video that people are going to be like, yeah, I feel so much closer to so-and-so. You know, like, let's just even look at Joe Rogan for a second, okay? Joe Rogan's been podcasting for fucking years, okay? And people love him. People adore him. People, like, stand by his side through some of these really big controversial things because he's such a controversial, like, he obviously is, like, he's much more, I think he's a conservative. I mean, don't quote me on it because I don't really listen to Joe Rogan, but he's in the news all the time and people are talking about him and they're like, I vehemently disagree with Joe Rogan and blah, 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 right? Like, he has a podcast. If you really think about it, podcasting is just like having a fucking radio show. People love radio shows. People still tune into the radio. Granted, they might be boomers, but that audio experience is so much more immersive and gives so much more insight into who is hosting the podcast than any other Insta-fucking-gram post can, TikTok post can, YouTube video can, because obviously all that shit is edited in some kind of way. I mean, granted, there's probably podcast episodes that are edited in tons of ways, but these episodes are not edited because I truly believe that there is magic in keeping it as real as possible. So in any case, the point is, a lot of these entrepreneurs are releasing podcasts and they release tons of podcasts at a time, tons of episodes at a time. Obviously, look at what I'm doing with my own podcast where I'm creating multiple episodes before I drop it for you to binge before I have a regular schedule of 2 episodes a week, okay? And once you binge it, you're like, I can't wait to hear what she has to say in the next episode, because the next episode is going to be everything about whatever. I think it's probably going to be launching just because that's what I have on my list of things to talk about, and I want to rant on it so fucking bad, but you understand where I'm coming from. When you have a lot to talk about, when people are in your energy, when they hear your voice, when they hear what you have to say, when they hear your message, it is going to be so much more powerful that they're going to be like, I have to learn what it is that she's doing in her programs, or like, I have to be in her coaching realm because she clearly has the type of energy that I need to receive in order for me to take action. Okay. So I want you to take all this information. Here's what I want for you to do. I want you to figure out what platform is going to be best for you, because there are going to be some people who are like, oh yeah, I'm so much better on video. Or there's going to be some people who are like, I don't like showing my face. It makes me really uncomfortable, right? Like, don't get me wrong. I've tried everything under the fucking sun and I know what it is that I like to do. I like to fucking talk. And the reason why TikTok and YouTube and even like Instagram videos work well for me, and by Instagram videos, I mean Instagram lives, not reels, okay? The reason why videos work so well for me is because I get to talk. Talking is a really good channel and medium for me. I've been trying for years to do the Instagram post thing where I could just put up a graphic and be like, oh, look, I have like 5,000 likes and like 300 shares and, you know, like 700 saves. Fucking bullshit. It doesn't work for me. I don't feel comfortable. It's not my bread and butter. Okay? You're going to find a type, a form, a channel, a medium, whatever you want to call it, where you're going to be like, I feel super comfortable doing this. And for some of you, that might be a graphic, and that's great. Keep showing up and doing graphics. For some of you, it's going to be audio. For me, it's an audio. I love fucking talking. Look at this. This is 19-20 minutes, and I'm all by myself. Fucking booyah. For some of you, it's going to be video, and that's awesome. Find the medium that works best for you and continue to create using that medium, because that's going to be the best medium for people to get into your energy, to get to know you, to be exposed to you, to be in your energy, and create long form content from that medium and repurpose it into shorter pieces, because that's going to be a truly winning content strategy. 9 times out of 10, these big name business owners are not putting a whole hell of a lot of effort into their content creation. They're taking something that they've already said, maybe 5 years ago, maybe yesterday, and they're just reposting it, and they're doing it in several different ways. They do it in a meme. They do it in a podcast audio recording. They do it in a graphic, like quoting what they said in a podcast or whatever. They do it in pictures or videos, whatever, okay? Take it, repurpose the shit out of it, and blast it, okay? Now, you don't even have to do that many pieces of long form content in a week. You do like 1 or 2 pieces of content that are long form in a week, and then you just chop it up into bits for all the short form pieces, more or less. There are going to be some pieces that you can't necessarily incorporate for a short form piece of content. Like, let's say you want to do like social proof, a testimonial, or a case study, right? Unless you've been talking about a case study in your podcast episodes, you're not going to have the long form content to really fall back on for that. So, keep the variety there in terms of your long form content. Don't just do educational long form content. Do case study long form content. Do problem aware types of long form content. Do conversations. Do different modalities so that you can capture different angles, more or less, for you to put into your short form content. Obviously, like my 2 platforms that I'm gonna, three, because I'm technically not counting Threads, because Threads is part of Instagram and they work cohesively together in my Instagram strategy right now. So the 3 platforms that I'm going to be showing up on are going to be my podcast, TikTok, and Instagram. That's it. I'm not going to be hemming and hawing at YouTube. I'm not too worried about my email list. I actually have somebody covering my emails to my email list, which is fucking great. Outsource if you can. Trust me, it makes your life a hell of a lot easier. Okay? And then take what you do in your podcast and, like I said, just chop it up into bits. It's going to make it a hell of a lot easier for you, a hell of a lot easier for the people who are going to be consuming your content. And it's also going to be a hell of a lot easier in terms of when you're going to be launching shit, because people are just going to gobble up your long form content like fucking Thanksgiving, Turkey Day. It's going to be like all the fucking mashed potatoes and cranberries and sweet potatoes and turkey and cornbread, whatever other good things you put on that plate during that holiday. They're just going to nom it all up. And they're going to be like, I want more. Because the long form content, if it's juicy as shit, they're going to be like, I need more. I got to have more. So incorporate 1 to 2 pieces of long form content a week. You really don't have to even do 2. You can do 1 and get away with just repurposing it all across your Instagram posts or your stories or your TikToks or your Threads, whatever. Because you'll have 1 piece of long form content as the base, and then you'll have multiple, this week I have 12 to 15 pieces of short form content, okay? It sounds like a lot. Trust me, it's not a fucking lot. And in all honesty, those 12 to 15 pieces of short form content literally took me maybe 15 minutes to figure out. Not even. I think out of all of the entirety of this week's content strategy, if I were to break it down into time, it took maybe a majority of 2 hours between the ideation, the creation, and the releasing of everything. It really didn't take long at all, especially because I don't edit my podcast videos or episodes, whatever. They just go. So, and this episode is going to be like maybe 26 minutes by the time I'm done. All right. So like, that's really fucking good. Another hour and a half for the entirety of the week. And I have my Instagram post scheduled, my video scheduled, my Threads, pretty much stream of consciousness. They just go, right? Like, it really doesn't have to take long, but you do have to do it, because you talking about your offers, you talking about your content, you talking about your message, what you have to help people with, you talking about it is going to be so much different than if you have somebody else doing it, and people can tell. So for right now, you take care of your content, because your content is the closest thing that people can get to consuming you. All right. Now, I did mention this in the welcome episode, and I'm going to also mention this at the end of this episode to kind of wrap things up and also to give you an incentive. I am going to be giving away 50 grab bags, more or less, of goodies to the first 50 people who leave a review on this podcast. If you leave a review, be sure to take a screenshot and post it onto your Instagram stories and tag me so that I can reach out to you to know where to send these goodies, because any review will always help in the algorithm for the platform that you listen to this podcast. And also, I have stuff that I want to give away that has just been like begging me to be given away. Like, it just needs to, it's business stuff from 2021, and I'm so tired of looking at it, and I'm like, I'm not charging for it, I just want to give it away. So be sure to leave a review, take a screenshot, post it onto your stories, and tag me. My Instagram handle is @Fallon.Moran. I'm going to leave it down in the bottom of the show notes as well, so that you can get your hands on these goodies, because I'm gonna promise you're not going to want to miss out on these goodies. I fucking love the notebook that I've made, and there are so many other people who have so many other good things to say about this notebook, and I know that it's going to help you take action on what you want to do in your business. So that's just one of the items. Obviously, there are more, but be sure to leave a review so that we can get you your goodies, and so that we can get this podcast recommended to other people out in the universe. So thank you for tuning in. As always, I am going to be open for any questions or comments that you have in my DMs on Instagram. And if you had any takeaways from this episode, be sure to screenshot and tag me with your takeaways in your stories. So that's all that I got for you today. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, bye.